All right, so we are going to join your love of difference of squares with your love of square binomials in one problem.
Yay!
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are being asked to factor a squared plus b, a squared minus b squared plus 6x. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, I did that so that everyone could laugh at me. All right, so here we go. So we have a squared minus b squared plus 6b minus 9. So that's what we have. Now, I'm looking at this, and it just doesn't feel right. Because normally, when you're asked to factor, you either have a trinomial, 3 terms, or a binomial, 2 terms. But here, we just have a polynomial with 4 terms. We don't really have anything that can handle that. So really quickly, I'm going to sort of try to set things into groups that make sense together. So I notice here we have an a squared. Do we have anything that relates to the a squared whatsoever?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay, so I'm going to set this a squared off by itself for a second. That would leave me with negative b squared plus 6b minus 9. Now that looks like something we've handled before. The only problem is, well, it kind of looks like a square binomial, but I'm looking at that negative 9, and that just doesn't feel good because 3 times 3 is 9, okay. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, but we have a negative 9. So here's what we're going to do first. And also making me feel even more uncomfortable is this negative outside, this negative b squared. So what I'm going to do, not only am I going to combine my love of square binomials and differences of squares, you know what else I love? Greatest common monomials. So I'm going to use that too. So right now, I notice that for all of these terms, negative 1 goes into all of those terms. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1, which means I have negative 1 on the outside. And what is negative b squared divided by negative 1?
B squared.
B squared. What is positive 6b divided by negative 1?
Negative 6b.
Negative 6b. What is negative 9 divided by negative 1? 9. That's positive. Oh, this is a square binomial, isn't it?
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I agree. Wowzers.
All right. So how do I factor b squared minus 6b plus 9 as a square binomial? Yeah?
Do you square the entire parentheses?
So I have one binomial that's squared, okay? Will I have an addition or subtraction inside the binomial?
Addition.
What does my linear term tell me? What does this?
Subtraction.
So we have subtraction, okay. So what is the square root of b squared? B. Okay.
B.
What's the square root of 9?
3.
And I still have this negative out front, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And oh, wait a second. So I have my a squared.
No way.
No.
Oh my goodness. Is a squared a perfect square?
Yeah.
It is. Is b, the quantity b minus 3 squared a perfect square?
Yes.
It is. Do I have a difference of squares here?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you are.
You're a difference of squares.
All right. So we have a difference of squares here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this just a little bit so that I have a little extra room to work. All right. So and now we'll do the third part. So here's my first factoring of the greatest common monomial of negative 1. Here's my second factoring, factoring my difference of squares. I'm glad you're getting this for posterity's sake. Okay, good.
I need it.
And now we have a difference of squares. So I'm going to use a bracket because I already have these parentheses. I don't want to get confused. So I have my bracket here. So brackets are the same thing as parentheses. Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. So what times what? What times itself is a squared?
A.
A and a. Okay, that's not too bad. What kind of signs will I have inside the parentheses? a plus and a minus. Feel free to shout that out a little bit louder, it's okay. Well, wait a second, what's the square root of this binomial right here squared? So what's the square root of the quantity b minus 3 squared?
B minus 3.
b minus 3. So I'm gonna have to keep this in parentheses, b minus 3. b minus 3. It is a little complicated, but it wants to make sure that there's love and joy in the world in this holiday season. And I can't think of anything more joyful or loving than greatest common monomials, differences of squares, and square binomials. And I'm sure you're thinking about what is Framke's life at home if that is love and joy. But it is wonderfully joyous. All right, so I forgot to close the parentheses. Thank you. So now here's the last piece. Now, if you got to this point, you should probably feel really, really good about yourself. But that's not the final answer. Here's why. So if I add b minus 3, well, does that change anything? No. So I can just go ahead and say a plus b minus 3. But I have this negative sign that has to be distributed. So my other parenthesis is going to be a minus b plus 3, because negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. This is our final answer. It is possible to have all 3 types of factoring that we've talked about in one problem.
Okay, I didn't get this on camera.
I need to take